We deal with math every day in the real world. Word problems are a great insight into looking at math in our world. On your own, attempt this think, pair, share problem. Answer this word problem by any means possible. When we look at word problems or we look at math in the real world, we need to look for general themes. Values can combine together to make bigger values. Values can separate apart to make smaller values, and you can compare values. When we combine values, we can either put together in equal sized groups or in equal sized values together, or we can take equal groups of values and combine them together. When we put together values, one size chunk and another size chunk together, we're dealing with addition. When we're dealing with individual equal-sized groups, that's multiplication. We can think of separating values similarly. We can either take away, which would be removing one unequal-sized value, or we can split into equal groups, which would be utilizing equal groups more than one time. Take away represents subtraction. Splitting things into equal groups represents division. If you're dealing with a scenario that compares two different groups of values, you're really being asked to subtract the bigger group minus the smaller group to find the difference between the groups. By thinking conceptually, we can look at the situation and not just at the keywords. Evaluating word problems is at its most basic a four-step process. Step 1. Read the word problem for understanding. This, sadly, is a very overlooked step. Don't just jump to circling numbers. We need to understand the scenario. The numbers may give us the values we're dealing with, but in order to do the order of operations, we need to know our operations. And operations are built into the scenario or the plot of the word problem. John has $12 and is given $8 more. How much money does he have now? Try summarizing it to yourself. Well, John has $12. He's going to get 8 more. To me, that sounds like addition. I'm putting more together. I'm putting two different values together. Step 2. Identify the given information. This is the step most students jump to. Well, I see $12. That's the value I start with. And then I get $8 more. I also underline the question, how much money? This acts almost like answering an English class with a complete sentence. How much money? My answer should be blank much money or blank dollars. Step 3, we're going to model the word problem. In grade school and middle school, this could have been doing individual operations. It could have meant drawing a picture. In this case, we need to make an algebraic expression. I have $12. Actually, John has $12. And then he's given 8 more. Well, 8 more, we already know that sounds like addition. So I'm going to add 8. Step 4 is to evaluate or solve for the answer. Here I'm going to use the order of operations. 12 plus 8 gives me 20. There's my final answer. Always include a unit. Remember, we're asking the question, how much money? The answer is $20. The unit has to go with any value that comes from a word problem. When we deal with more complex word problems, it may help to break down these 4 steps a little further. So to the right we have Mike invests $1,300 in a stock. In one day his money doubled. The next day he earned $175 and then lost $372.12. How much are his shares of stock worth? I see multiple values and multiple operations going on here. So when I read for understanding, I don't want to just look at the values. Too many students just circle the numbers that are present. If you ignore the situation, you ignore the plot, you ignore the operations, and that's really key. In fact, it's almost more important to be able to summarize the word problem without values. So I should be able to tell this story. Mike had some money that he bought some stocks with. That money doubled. The next day, he earned some money. Then he lost some money. So I hear an amount of money that's being doubled. So that sounds like it's times 2. Then he earned some money. So I'm going to add a value. Then he's going to lose money. So I'm going to subtract a value. Decide on those operations. The plot, retelling it to yourself, summarizing it, reading it for understanding, tells you those operations. It may help to write them in. Well, I know doubled is times 2. If he earned $175, that's plus, that's $175 more. If he lost $372.12, that's subtraction. Write those in. It may help you in the long run. Step 2, we're going to identify the given information. Circle or list the given information. So this is the step a lot of students jump to. Let's find the values that are important. So I have $1,300. I'm going to double that amount. The next day I'm going to earn 175, so I already decided that I'm going to add 175. Then I'm going to lose $372.12, so I'm going to subtract that $372.12. Identify the value and the unit. All of these have the same exact unit. Money, 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 dollars. So I need to make sure that my answer relates back to this unit. It also really helps if you underline the question. How much are his shares of stock worth? This not only tells you where the problem's going, but it tells you the unit that your final answer should be in. How much are his shares worth? Well, that's going to be money, so my unit's going to be dollars. Step 3, let's model the problem. Now again, you could draw this out, you could do individual operations, but the skill we're working on is taking a real-world situation and modeling it as an algebraic expression before evaluating for a final answer. So what we need to do is tell the story as an equation or algebraic expression. We've summarized this problem, we've identified the numbers that are important, we've observed from the scenario which operations are present. So now let's tell the story not just from a word point of view, but from a numeric or mathematical point of view. We relate this back to a story because a story has a beginning, a middle, and end. A story has order. A word problem has order, just like an algebraic expression has to have order. This order comes from the story. The order of the values and operations depends on the word problem. So this is why it's important to think beyond just the numbers. We've read the plot, we understand it, we've identified the numbers, now let's tell it back in order. Mike invests $1,300 in a stock. So we need to start with $1,300. That's right now what this expression is worth, $1,300. In one day, his money doubled. Well, doubled we know means 2 times. That's 2 equal groups being combined together. 2 groups of 13. The next day, he earned $175. Well, when I read things like the next day or next time, anything that claims that the values up to that point have been finalized before something else happens, to me, that sometimes hints at parentheses. Then it says he earned $175. So we've already decided that that's plus 175. And then lost $372.12. Always compare the equation or algebraic expression to your summary. So if I wanted to retell the story without reading the word problem, I see that $1,300 was doubled. Well, I invested $1,300 and it doubled the first day. 175 was then added. Well, I earned $175. That's money that was added on to my value. Then I subtracted $372.12. That means $372 was lost. Once we have our model, we can finally solve it or evaluate. So I'm going to follow the order of operations in this case. I'm going to take care of my parentheses first. 1,300 times 2 gives me 2,600. I underline, I evaluate, I rewrite everything. I see addition, subtraction, so I'm going to go from left to right. I underline, I evaluate, I rewrite. I only have one operation, but I still underline, evaluate, and there's nothing left to rewrite. Always make sure you include a unit. In this case, the question was, how much are his shares of stock worth? Well, his shares of stock are worth $2,402.88. Include that unit. We're dealing with real-world scenarios. Always circle your answer. With that much work, you want to make sure the person grading your paper can find your answer every time.